We want to define what a Christian is. Watch how Dan defines it. He doesn't define it, he slips it in. You ready? Here we go.
To define the boundaries of our own belief system and what we mean by the term Christian, which we use to describe ourselves.
So that would be all and good if all people who identified as Christian had a seat at the table. And
boom, there it is. Did you catch it? All people who identify as a Christian. This was the problem we wanted to avoid at the outset of today's core program when we're trying to figure out what is a Christian. One of the problems is that people will call themselves Christians, but they do not follow Jesus, both in the ethical practice and the propositional beliefs we can hold about who Jesus is. But yet they'll say, oh yeah, I believe in Jesus. I'm a Christian. How many people in America say I'm a Christian, but don't do X, Y, and Z? They don't love their neighbors. They're filled with hatred. They lose their tempers, sleeping around with people, physically abusive. Those are all hallmarks of people who are not following Jesus. That's the issue I want to avoid, and that's Dan's standard. It's anybody who self-identifies as a Christian. That's a terrible way of trying to figure out who is a follower of Jesus and who is not.
And had a hand in determining what the criteria and methodologies were going to be for drawing the boundary around the concept of Christian. But that's not...
Okay, all right, this is easy. This is really easy because it's not up to anybody who self-identifies as a Christian to determine what a Christian is. It's the people who follow Jesus. So those are his disciples, and his disciples passed along the teaching, the apostolic teaching, which has been faithfully preserved. And so the apostolic teaching has been faithfully preserved throughout the early decades and centuries of the Christian church. Plain and simple. Those are people who believe what Jesus taught, believe the truths about who he is, and also follow the ethical practices. It's not anybody who just wants to say I'm a Christian and that they get a seat at the table. You have to first decide who does get a seat at the table. And it's not going to be the people from 5,000 miles away who were never part of receiving the apostolic teaching. If you just say that you follow Jesus, that's not good enough. In fact, that's a terrible methodology for determining who even gets to determine the criteria.